Since the time when Ra and Isis raised the Sphinx out of the sand, and Apollo dreamed Athena, and men began to understand that when darkness folds on darkness in the restless tides of night, and the lightning raises shadows and for moments gives them life, it's been said by those who ponder that it surely is a sign that a life touched by the stars is now running out of time. And somewhere in that darkness, in the heart of that great storm, the world returns a soul that the gods caused to be born. And this was such a storm, the kind one rarely sees in life. For in a room now filled with shadows, the great Beethoven was spending his last night. Now gathered around him there were the ghosts from out of his past. For in the play unfolding there this night, they would be the cast. And there among these shadows was the beautiful spirit of fate, who had arrived with her dwarf son Twist, and with the other ghosts did watch and wait.
And in the dark he sits alone to watch his final hours bleeding, while unconcerned upon the wall the clock it ticks away the time. No need for words, for in the dark all words have long since lost their meaning. Still when they whisper in his ear, he tries to read between the lines.
What I see in the night, what I feel in your heart, all your dreams, all your lies, can you tell them apart? See the hands on the clock, are you watching them turn? For your candle's quite low, we've been watching it burn. As the shadows look on, should they cry for your sake? Should you sleep in their arms? For the shadows see all and they rarely forget every dream that you've had, every act you regret.
And retreat when you're standing all alone with your dreams in the dark, never knowing what is real. In the shadows you meet, never knowing what is true. In the answers you seek, never knowing if fate, she hears me. Fate, stand near me. Fate, state clearly whether there will be another card. Retrieve us, time deceives us. Fate, she hears us, but she doesn't listen very hard as she drifts through our lives, tossing coins into the air. Watch them twist, watch them fall, turning hope into despair. Watch them twist, watch them fall, then she suddenly revives every dream that we've had, and we find ourselves alive. Believe me, fate stands near me. Fate, state clearly whether there will be another card. Receive us, time deceives us. The only moment in our lives that ever really mattered, fate is done.
So upon this night the darkness humbled, candles sputtered, spirits grumbled, brooding in this bitter room what fate had woven on her loom, while shadows fed upon the gloom. But as these spirits talked and chattered, with all their thoughts quite widely scattered on things that no one else thought mattered, Beethoven, who as you know was quite deaf, heard all their words with deep regret and wished that he was deafer yet.
What good this deafness that my whole life I have dread? What good this deafness with these voices in my head? What good this deafness if this prattle I must hear? If I were blind, I'm sure they wouldn't disappear.
Did you really want to believe what you're saying? Did you really want to be here alone? Have I interrupted a moment of play while your life's decaying? Your sins, are they weighing while you've been carving your stone? All on your own. Did you really want to sit here in silence? Could it be that brooding is part of your art? Is it an extension of artistic license, a moody defiance of all of life's tyrants while you've been searching your heart? Alone with us in the dark.
Beethoven then begged for these shadows to take their leave, that they had no business being there. But the shadows, they disagreed. For no matter how Beethoven implored for these shadows to leave him alone, they chatted on and would not be gone from this his one-man catacomb. Then Twist explained how it was that they could not do as the composer wished, for since they were his shadows, it was only by his light they could exist. And as Beethoven's life was fading on this, his final night, it was only natural that these shadows should cling closer to his fading light. Now meanwhile, the clock, it just ticked on, as clocks are wont to do. For time's their only purpose, their only point of view. But when that clock struck midnight, its chimes both loud and clear, from out of those shifting shadows a final figure did appear. His voice, it had a certain charm that concealed all his disease, as he introduced himself to them as the Mephistopheles. He said that he had come to collect the great Beethoven's soul, that it really wasn't much, you see, merely a lump of coal. You look surprised, my dear composer, this simple fact to learn. But before tomorrow morning, together we will watch it burn. Beethoven stepped back in horror. This thing cannot be true. For I have done no great wrongs in life, at least none that I knew. Men quite often forget their sins, the devil did reply, until it's too late to repent. Forgetting, it's never too late to die. It's a part of human nature upon which I've come strongly to rely. Men quite often forget their sins, for redemption can always wait. And I always allow this to happen It's an important part of my bait. And by the time that they remember, it always tends to be too late. Now you may think your sins are minor, that to enter hell they're not enough. Well, a cruel act here, a rude word there, believe me, they add up. And rising from the shadows is the spectre of your death. For since your birth he has been owed, and now is here to clear the debt. But perhaps we can talk a little while, for you are not dead. Not yet.
All of your life now you have denied there'd be a time when you'd ever die. Still it's been rumored this thing must be. Why is it then that you act surprised when I appear now to be your guide? Why do you hesitate to follow me? See it rising, stare and wonder, hear it beckon you to dance, feel it hold you, take you under. I'm your god of second chance. And now you claim you are not prepared. So much to do, you cannot be spared. Still your entreaties death will not hear. The graveyard is filled with important men who could not be spared, but were in the end. And so I whisper now in your ear. See it rising, stare and wonder, hear it beckon you to dance, feel it hold you, take you under. I'm your god of second chance, second chance, second chance, second chance. Domine, 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 domineo, 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 domineo.
I cannot die upon this night, the composer did protest, for I must complete my 10th symphony before my final rest. The devil smiled compassionately, which took all there by surprise, but not nearly as much as his answer when he finally did reply. They say that I have no compassion, that my heart it cannot feel, but I sympathize with your dilemma, So I offer you this deal. Take all the time you need to complete this 10th symphony you've begun. But first, show me what notes you change, and then I'll say the deal is done. Then Beethoven, he admitted that the symphony was quite finished, and if he changed a solitary note, the entire piece would be diminished. I sense your fear, the devil said, over what must now be done. But if you don't like this ending, I can offer you another one. If you'll give me your music, each note, each rest, each beat, then I'll return your soul to you and save it from the heat. Now I see your face perplexes, that you do not understand, that it is my intention to wipe these songs from the mind of man. Every symphony and choral, each sonata old and new, will simply disappear this night, but your soul returns to you. And with that, the great Beethoven stumbled backwards till he fell into his chair and searched his mind for a reply. But there were no answers there. The devil said, I can clearly see your mind is quite confused. So I'll return in 1 hour for the answer that you choose, and you can tell me then what you will keep and what you will lose. So tell me now, what do you fear? What do you love or hold too dear? Is it death well wrapped in pain? Or perhaps it's no one will remember your name. If this is so, then perhaps I cannot win. But then add pride on to your other sins. I am not trying to pressure you. I know you cannot decide yet. But nothing focuses the mind, my friend, like the approach of one's own death. And as he turned to disappear into his personal abyss, Beethoven called for him to wait, for something was now amiss. The hands upon the clock, it seems, were moving much too fast, and at this rate his hour gift would not an hour last. Consider it a final act of kindness, over his shoulder the devil did call, because where you are going, my dear Ludwig, the clocks, they never move at all. With Mephistopheles gone, the spirits silently crept back and watched the great composer agonize over the time that he now lacked. So in this room, now filled with shadows, Beethoven stood quite alone and contemplated how to save the only thing he truly ever owned. Could all the wisdom he had found, like so many leaves upon the ground, combine with all his dreams and sins, and on this night be scattered to the wind? For of our faith they are so insistent, with gods who are so inconsistent. And if we are to further delve into this night and find ourselves, might we discover in our past what in our lives might one day last?
And here in the night, as I feel the inferno, I stare in the dark, thinking what is eternal? The man or the moment, the act or the reason? These thoughts fill my head as I contemplate treason of dreams I have had and dreams I have pondered when late in the night my mind it would wander to things I have done and then quickly regretted while denying vices my life had selected. And I think what I've done or have yet to begin, and the man I've become and the man that I've been, now caught in a waltz with the eternal dancer. I'm courted by death, but death isn't the answer, I say. All I was meant to be. Could I suddenly just decide not a thought would survive? Could it be my life's worth ended there with my birth? If I could see someone who's been there before me and traded his soul for a moment of glory, his penance or mercy, my spirit's debated while judged on a scale that's been heavily weighted. And what have I done? Could there be such a sin in this man I've become, in this man that I've been? Now calling to God from the pit's very bottom, I pray he forgives every sin I've forgotten this day. And who would have thought that my fate it would conjure this twist in the road on which I have wandered, each vision and dream now completely dismembered, to give one's whole life and find nothing's remembered. And what good's a life that leaves nothing behind, not a thought or a dream that might echo in time? The years and the hours, the seconds and minutes, and everything that my life has placed in it betrayed, betrayed, betrayed. The things I have done, the places I've been, the cost of my dreams, the weight of my sins, and everything that I've gathered in life. Could it be lost? Could it be lost in this? Could it be lost in this? Could it be lost in this?
For a moment, there was silence. As the storm, it hesitated, and like the shadows in the room, on his next word, it waited. As Beethoven tried to remember the exact moment when he crossed the line, did he lose his soul with one cruel act, or with little ones that piled up in time? Then Beethoven wondered what one's soul was worth. Is the price the same the day we die as it is upon our birth? Then he turned towards fate. There was anger in his eyes. Could his present plight upon this night be something she devised? Why did you deal me such a hand? Was it all chance, or was it planned? As throughout my life you toyed, did you regret, or just enjoy? Now Fate was quite stunned by this unexpected attack, but she never lost her flawless grace as she gently replied back. Mephistopheles has made you an offer. Now I will make one too. Together we will go back through your life and every act review. Together we will go through your years. This thing I can arrange, and anything you wish me to. This very night I'll change. Now Beethoven thought, was this a trick? But a trick he could not see. So he did the only thing he could, which was, to this new offer, he agreed. Forgive my outburst, Beethoven said. You take kindness to an art. I will gratefully accept your proposal if you'll just tell me where we start. In looking back, Fate replied, I see your youth was wild. But if one really wants to know the man, one has to know the child. And with those words, the room around them did slowly fade away, replaced by one from his distant past, where as a child he had once played. And there he saw himself as a young child, still a long way from the grave, where anything was possible, and any dream could still be saved. He was sitting at a piano, but there was sorrow in his eyes, and no child's eyes should have sorrow, but the composer knew the reasons why. His teacher had just struck him. The mark was still clear upon his face, as were the tears that followed it, whose path one could still trace, and somewhere in his deepest thoughts the composer could still taste. The child was writing a melody to distract himself from his pain, and the elder Beethoven, watching this, could not be restrained. He entered into the small room and sat next to the child, which startled the boy for a moment, until the elderly gentleman smiled. Then he played the song the child was writing, and where the melody was rough, Beethoven added 3 small notes. But those notes, they were enough. So in the year 1778, on a beautiful summer's day, to a young child's ears and an old man's fears, the 6th Symphony was first played. Fate then whispered from the darkness that his time here was at an end. But as he was getting up to leave, the child asked, would they ever meet again?
This world of circumstance, children never fear forever, and this moment that enchants, someday we may both remember. Then, maybe then, if we are still alive, then then this moment will survive. There is time in every word. There are words in every reason. And these notes that are unheard, one day they may find their season. Then, maybe then, if we are still alive, then, maybe then, this moment will survive. Then, maybe then, if we are still alive, then, maybe then, this moment will survive. Will survive.
The composer then looked at the child, who smiled but did not speak. And then the child faded into the dark of the past, where the darkness is always deep. And Beethoven turned back to Fate, who had always been close by, and told her what he wanted changed, so that his fate could be defied. I did not need a teacher who taught with the back of his hand, while the music I was dreaming he could never understand. Fate said, "These moments of your life I'll change. But there is a warning that I must give. To change one moment of a life can change how that life is lived. Like the gears inside a clock, one moment turns another. Remove from a wall a single block, and sometimes that whole wall will shudder. The pain you felt through childhood would now seem to have no worth, but it was the salve you sought to ease that pain that gave your sixth symphony birth. So before I grant this wish, and this tale you later tell, know that these wounds will disappear, but so will your sixth symphony as well. So now that you know all that will be changed, including things far out of view, when your decision has been made, tell me what it is you would have me do." Fate did not have long to wait, for the answer was clear upon his face. His childhood would retain its tears, and his sixth symphony would retain its place. Fate then said that they should move on, for their time was growing short, and then asked where he had been happiest, and she watched as he followed that thought. For a moment there was a glitter somewhere beyond his stare, in a time when days were not bitter, and she found Vienna there. Which brings us all, my friends, to the next chapter in our story, as they watched Beethoven as a young man arriving in Vienna with all its glory.
Since I was a child, I've seen her in a dream, a captured fairy tale that echoes across my life. And though I've courted her, she's always stayed unseen. Now all at once she glitters in the night. But that was yesterday, and that was all before, when she was far away, a silhouette of dreams. But Others whispered that she was so much more, and suddenly I now know what they mean. Dreams change, years strain, lost illusions, last stands, God's hand, absolution found. Sins, visions by grim, all forgiven, life spent in vain, never reclaimed, take their final bows. Pictures and words, visions absurd, maddened poets all within sight, failures in life who'll never know it. Lazarus cries, there in his eyes, hope has risen, depth and facade, all before me now. Vienna.
It was here you first met Haydn, and walked through palaces filled with art, and studied with your childhood hero, the legendary Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. It was here, as you improvised together, that Amadeus became your brother, your melodies weaving seamlessly as each note seemed to dare another. Fate then reminded him that music was not the only debt. He owed the city of Vienna. It was there that he first met the Habsburg Princess Teresa, and how their lives became entwined by a love that became immortal and still echoes now through time.
Could this night it last forever? Every moment held together, as if in a perfect trance, and such a thing could be. No one else would understand it. We would know the gods had planned it, and for such a night as this, that they gave memory. And we would live inside this night, within the dreams of candlelight. If you would bring this wish to life, and spend this night with me. Could this moment last forever, and this dream our one endeavor, if the stars would just enchant, and time would then agree? Every moment of tomorrow from this evening we would borrow, if this wish the stars would grant and gently oversee. And we would live inside this night, within the dreams of candlelight. If you would bring this wish to life, and spend this night with me. And we would live inside this night, within the dreams of candlelight. If you would bring this wish to life, and spend this night and spend this night with me.
The happiest moments of his life were there inside that night. But within a year, my friends, I fear, he would drive her from his life, not because his love had faded or another lover had been met, but because he could not believe that someone could love a musician and was becoming deaf. He gave her no explanations for this secret. It was his shame. He could not bear to ever hear the word deaf connected to his name. He did not answer her letters or the inquiries she left. He stayed inside, alone with his pride, though his heart would not forget. He knew that she was still out there. This he could still clearly recall. But the silence was there also. And now, the silence, it was all. Sometimes, early in the evening, while twilight still lingered in the sky, Beethoven would be working in his music room, and Teresa would walk by. She knew that something had changed in his life, a secret his soul kept deep within. But Teresa did not care what that secret was. She only cared about him.
Lost in your dark, I see you there. What do you see beyond your stare? And you believe that no one else can know. What is this thing you keep inside, out of the light and wrapped in pride? Always afraid are far too near. What are these things that echo from the past? Who are these ghosts you see at night? They're in the shadows of your life. They only live by the light you cast. I'll keep your secrets. I'll hold your ground. And when the darkness starts to fall, I'll be around there waiting when dreams are fading and friends are distant and few. Though at that moment I'll be there with you. I'll be around when there's no reason left to carry on, and every dream you've ever had is gone, and the dark is deep and black without a sound. And every star has been dragged to the ground. No, at that moment I will be around. No, at that moment I will be around. No, at that moment I will be around.
The years quickly went by until he was totally quite deaf. And then, suddenly, the years he had lived were more than the ones he had left. While the silence, it grew deeper as it mingled with his fears. But in that total silence, the muses still whispered in his ear. And from deep inside, they beckoned dance as they deftly wove their porcelain trance of Chinese silk dyed in morphine by princesses so bacchantine.
Feel the darkness smiling, every note is dying, silence is refining every thought in his heart. Thought in his heart. Still the fates are weaving every note that's bleeding as he sits there seething all alone in the dark. Alone in the dark. Alone in the...
But in the night, the darkness breathes, if he wills it to be. Before his eyes, the music dies, but he will always hear me. He sits alone, the cards are shown, as he embraces the dark. The only sound that he will hear
Is there in his someone is whispering softly to me? Shadows of things that no one can alone. The cards are shown as he embraces the dark. The only sound that he will hear is there in his heart.
I see the answer clearly now. Of this wish, I can have no regrets. The greatest pain within my years occurred as I became deaf. Go back into my past, sweet fate, and return my hearing throughout my life. My live performances would once again be legendary, and Teresa would have become my wife. I would have children gathered round me, where now I just have songs. Return my hearing, my sweet lady, and in doing so, you will right all wrongs. Oh, my dearest Ludwig, fate replied, I ache to grant your wish, but as I warned you once before, it would cause your other songs not to exist. Before you lost your hearing, your performances were your art. It was how you made your living. Of your life, it was an irremovable part. It was only when your hearing left you that you truly began to write, creating masterpiece after masterpiece that have led us to this night. Say the word, and I'll remove your deafness. Say the word, and I'll remove your pain. But your music will disappear as well, and the world won't be the same. I wish I could offer you an easy answer, but easy answers are rarely there. But at this moment in your life, of that fact I'm sure you are quite aware. No one, including myself, would blame you for trying to save your soul, but the devil will have his victory, and the future's children will pay the toll. So tell me, Ludwig, what should I do? Should I return your hearing to you? You cannot seek advice from another voice. These songs are your children, their fate, your choice. Beethoven gazed at her through eyes of deep regret. The songs, they would remain for now, and his ears, they would remain quite deaf. Fate then informed him that it is not only his deafness that shaped his life, but his lack of ability to believe that prevented Teresa from becoming his wife. She would then show Beethoven a moment of which he was unaware, when as an old man he walked down a street, and Teresa saw him there. The princess kept her presence silent as she stood in the shadow of a tavern sign. But fate allowed him to hear Teresa's thoughts as she watched him for the last time.
Time, only time, could never take me away from you. And why should it try? Time never cares just what we do. It just sits on a star and gazes down, dropping its moments all around. And if I could wish upon that star, I would find what you dream and then ask God to grant it. I wanted to say this long before this dark would fall. At night I would pray this, then wonder if God heard at all. For the chances I've had are now long gone, and that star is no longer wished upon. For on this night it seems too far away. I have tried to pretend that I don't care, but then sleep arrives, and in every dream I find you there. But I don't want the past to be my life, and I don't want to live inside this night, and I don't want to see your shadow fade. So I sleep and I dream, though I don't understand it. I wanted to say this long before this dark would fall. At night I would pray this and wonder if God heard at all. For the chances I've had are now long gone, and that
And with that, the Princess Teresa walked slowly into the night. It would be the last time that she would see him, at least the last time in this life. And Beethoven's heart collapsed into itself when he realized what might have been, that the only one that could not see how she felt during their lives had been him. Now fate, she tried to ease the pain from his wounds now steeped in salt, and reminded him that a man was not the sum total of his faults. Think what you have written, the ears you have enchanted, the wishes for every hurt soul's peace that you have somehow granted, the wings you've given cripples in the world inside their minds, the joy you brought to countless lives that heard your music for the first time. Hear how that music echoes. This I'll now allow you to see. Look into these shadows and hear the music your life will cause to be. At the end of this opus, from the future and the past, fate watches the joy on the old man's face as he finally realized at last that a man is not the sum total of the collection of his faults. The errors and mistakes from his past he keeps carefully locked in vaults. That every note he agonized through endless silent nights would live countless times with sounds divine through an eternity of lives.
Sometimes slowly time brings revelation, waiting softly for someone to believe that the ghost we've hidden or left to die have now arisen and will arrive to say what has happened. Say what has happened. Say what has happened to me. And who would have thought that you'd be the one that I would have found here waiting, lost in this night until you arrived, and always too blind to see. And who would have thought that after this time that I'd be the one you're saving? Now undisguised the ghost that survived. Now say what was meant to be. I never wanted to give my life away. Whoever thought it would matter anyway? Wandering inside this night, finding pieces of a life. Never sure I'd ever know what it means. It's the strangers in your life that you never thought you'd meet. It's the hand that picked you up when you're laying in the street. It's the hand
Their time, it was now over. Like a shattered hourglass, he could not win, so with his sins they returned from his past. From the shadows of his life, he told fate his decision was made. He would not give up a single note. Every piece it would be saved. He could not remove the music that gave so many other people joy. But still, he dreaded his future as the Lord of Evil's toy. So late into his life, like the last days of December, he searched his mind for a way to find a way out of his dilemma. For Satan in our lives is noted, all his vices often quoted, and though he serves a splendid feast, at the table's head still sits the beast.
In every life it has been said, there comes a time to join the dead. Admit there is no second chance, and join death in a final dance. Across the floor eternity, until the final moments bled, and in the dark to take his hand, except that it is time to win. I don't know what I'm thinking, because all that I see is his face grinning. Mephistopheles, I need to find an answer, for this one cannot be within the words of Mephistopheles. Tell me what you think, tell me what you know. Did you really think that there would be an ever after? Do you think I'm scared? Tell me, does it show? When he's had this deafness, I can always use whispering. There comes a time you decide what from your life will be real, what scars you will keep alive, what you are willing to heal. What can I gamble this night with everything that I am? And can I erase my life, or do I stay here and be? Tell me what you think, tell me what you know. Did you really think there would be an ever after? Do you think I'm scared? Tell me, does it show? When it's at this deafness, I can always hear his laughter. I don't know what I'm thinking, because all that I see is his face grinning. Mephistopheles, I need to find an answer, for this one cannot be within the words of Mephistopheles.
Don't need this path before me, don't need forgotten glory, don't need these threats of violence, don't need eternal silence, don't need these midnight visions, don't need to make decisions, don't need to be uncertain, don't need this final curtain. Somewhere out there he's still gazing as these threats of violence through these mazes. Don't need my vision, don't need to make decisions, don't need to be uncertain, don't need this final curtain. Somewhere out it is too late, still this path to take, these threats of violence through these mazes. Don't need my vision, don't make decisions, don't need to be uncertain, don't need this final curtain. Somewhere out it is too late, still this path to take, these threats of violence through these mazes. Don't need my vision, don't make decisions, don't need to be uncertain, don't need this final curtain. Now it is too late, this path to take. Don't want to see my life be.
Tell me what you think, tell me what you know. Did you really think that there would be an ever after? Do you think I'm scared? Tell me, does it show? When it's at this deafness, I can always hear his laughter. I don't know what I'm thinking, because all that I see is his face grinning. Mephistopheles, I need to find an answer, for this one cannot be within the words of
of Mephistopheles. The cost of patience when there's no time before me, of hesitation, or for this twisted glory and my salvation. The cost of how it's gotten, the cost of what's gained. All forgotten, all forgotten.
Then, at that moment, the clock behind them struck midnight on its bell, and Mephistopheles once more appeared, shimmering in its knell, saying, "So tell me, my dear Ludwig, what did we decide? Do we have a deal? Has your end been sealed, or has it been defied?" The composer moved not an inch as he stated his reply. "This music I cannot allow you to take from the world, so it appears you must take I." "You do not appreciate my kindness?" the devil said. "No one could offer you more. Your soul is trapped, in fire wrapped, and I've given you a door. How could you deny it? Are you a saint, or are you a fool? Well, I'm feeling generous this night, so once more I'll bend the rules. A deal, it is still out there, just hidden out of view. So I'll make one final offer that will return your soul to you. This compassion you feel for mankind, I perhaps can understand. That your music that has brought such happiness you cannot remove from the lives of man. But your 10th symphony you've just completed. No one else knows it exists. And what mankind has never heard, mankind will never miss. Believe what I say is true, my friend. It's as clear as a Judas kiss. So give this last song to me. Is it really so much? To trade so little for your eternal soul? It's a deal for which you should rush." Beethoven wavered for a second, until the ghost of Mozart reappeared, and very quietly whispered in the great Beethoven's ear, "You cannot give this song to him, though the temptation is very hard, for this is the greatest piece ever written. It is the very voice of God." Then Mozart faded back into the darkness, but his words had done their work, as Beethoven once more turned down the offer, no matter how hard it hurt. "You are a cagey bargainer," the devil said, his voice quite icy cold. "If Judas had you around in 33 AD, his silver pieces just might have been gold. But I'll make one final offer, and this one I swear you must accept. For if you turn it down, my friend, your last offer is death. Your soul is now mine to keep. But I have something else to trade, a jewel that glitters in the night, and it's entirely man-made. Walk over to the window and gaze across the street at a child lying in the gutter where she is trying to gather sleep. But the rain it will not let her, as it falls both hard and cold, with every drop a devil's prop designed to make her old.
There is a child and she sleeps in the gutter. Don't close your eyes and she's easy to see. She is not your child, she's always another's. And those you abandon, they are left to me. And no, I will impale her like a knife.
Leave her twisting day after day after day of a very short life with me. Listen now closely and hear how I planned it. Please let me tell you just how it will be. She'll feel the pain, but she won't understand it. She'll think it's her fate, but we'll know it's me. And know I will impale her like a knife. Leave her twisting day after day after day of a very short life with me. So let me know, have I been clear? That I will magnify each cut and every bruise and every single childhood tear. I'll pick her scabs, cripple a hand, push a finger in each wound I make. Now tell me then, do you understand? 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 And know I will impale her like a knife. Leave her twisting day after day after day of a very short life with me. With me.
Release your 10th symphony. That's all I ask of thee. And I will give this child to you. A fair trade, you would agree? A trickling of notes. Who cares about a single song? To not trade it for this innocent child would certainly be wrong. Beethoven turned away from the window and gave the devil a final no. But the child was still inside his mind, and he could not let her go. And the more he denied her hold on him, the more that hold did grow.
This child that I've never seen before? Who is this child that I've not seen till this day? Who dares to fall asleep outside my door? If we should wait a while, I'm sure she'll go away. To be involved with this would surely not be wise, for in the final word she means nothing to me. I learned the trick is that we just avoid her eyes, and the question what she means to. What is this life? There will be other lives soon to arrive. Surely some will survive. She is but one, and there are many more, each the same as any other. Who is this child? What does she mean to me? I close my eyes, and still her face I see. She is but one, her kind is everywhere. Can't you see there's no way I should care? I need a moment now, I have to clear my mind. Is there a limit, Lord, just to being kind? There is no way in life that each child can be saved. Should I be looking with regret at every grave? There are no guarantees in life, she should be warned. I'm not responsible for this child being born. I'm not responsible in any kind of way for every child that life can gather. What is this life? There will be other lives soon to arrive. Surely some will survive. She is but one, and there are many more. Could this one life really matter? Who is this child? What does she mean to me? I close my eyes, and still her face I see. She is but one, her kind is everywhere. Can't you see there's no way I should care? Can you see it in the night? Can you feel that it's out there? It's the arcing of a life, and it's hanging in the air. Though I try to close my eyes and pretend that I don't know, in my heart I just can't let it go. There has to be another way for me, a way that leads from this insanity, a way that leads from my destruction. As I say, can you see it in the night? Can you feel that it's out there? It's the arcing of a life, and it's hanging in the air. Though I try to close my eyes and pretend that I don't know, in my heart I just can't let it go.
Beethoven collapsed at his piano and said to the devil, "We now have a deal." To which Satan replied, "I'll be gone from her life on this very night, and from here on, happiness is all she will feel." The devil leapt with sheer delight, in evil ecstasy, shouting for all to hear within sight, "The 10th Symphony now belongs to me." But while Beethoven sat face down at his piano, as if Satan's boast he had not heard, Twist came up and pulled the composer's sleeve and said, "How do you know that the devil will keep his word?" The devil did not even look up from his manuscript, where he was examining his prize. "Don't worry about hurting my feelings with what your warped friend has implied. I see you have a Bible on the table where you keep the statements from your bank. And as you may have noticed, the last page of a Bible is always left quite blank. Now, if you'll just take that Bible and tear out that last page, you can write a contract of your own choosing that will hold my word like a dragon in a cage. And if you don't believe me, just ask your good friend Fate, for a contract written on such a holy page, even I could never break." Beethoven glanced up at Fate, who was still within his view, and she nodded her head gently, acknowledging that the devil's words were true. The old man took the Bible and tore out the last page as he was told. But when he tried to write, His hands they shook from nervousness, or perhaps just from being old. Fate took pity on the composer, and going gently to his side, offered to write the contract, and the composer nodded his reply. She then took the paper, and with bold artistic strokes, put down their agreement, and this is what she wrote. It is agreed upon this night, March 26, 1827, between the undersigned, that the music of the 10th Symphony, composed by Ludwig von Beethoven, firstborn son of Johann and Maria von Beethoven, of the city of Bonn, shall henceforth be the property of Mephistopheles. In exchange, it is also agreed that Mephistopheles and all his minions shall remove themselves from the life of the child presently sleeping in the gutter directly across from the window of this room. This removal of influence is to be commenced immediately upon signing and to be enforced for all eternity. The devil read it rapidly and quickly signed his name, and slowly, without looking up, Beethoven did the same. The devil grinned a devil's grin and shoved the symphony over the candle's flame, savoring the fire that would consume it all, forever erasing its name. But when the manuscript emerged from the fire, it was still all quite there. It wasn't burned or even singed. There wasn't even smoke wafting in the air. Then the devil heard a giggle, escaping from a grinning dwarf, and looked around and saw Fate's son twist, and he beckoned him to come forth. Why is this symphony still here? Why does it not ignite? Tell me, you gnome, what do you know? For if it does not burn, you might. Twist squirmed nervously before Satan, but could not hide his delight as he explained how the music had survived and would live long past this night.
The contract says that you now own the 10th Symphony, written by the firstborn son named Ludwig of Johann and Maria von Beethoven family. Now, a little known fact of history, but I assure you it's totally true that the composer had an older brother who was named Ludwig von Beethoven too. Now, this child died quite young, before our composer here was born. So they named their second son Ludwig also, though you would think the name was getting worn. His older brother lived only days, and now is at rest with God. As to why they named their second son Ludwig too, perhaps coming up with names back then was hard. So according to the deal you signed, if the first Ludwig rises through his coffin boards and writes 9 other symphonies, the 10th one will be yours.
The devil's face contorted as he realized that he had been fooled, and the child outside was safe as well, for the contract's words would rule. The floor opened into an abyss, and the devil disappeared as outside the storm subsided, and the stars shined in the skies now clear. Beethoven stood up in confusion, over what had just occurred. He realized that the girl and the symphony were safe from what he had overheard. But he asked fate why the devil had not taken his soul to hell. "He never had your soul," fate said. "It was never his to sell." But the devil said he owned it. "From my sins, that he did summarize." "Well, the devil may have said that," fate replied back. "But my dear, he's the devil. He lies." "But I was rude and cruel in my life," Beethoven answered with regret. "Yes," fate replied, "but the devil left out that those actions were often caused because you were deaf. And the pains that you caused in life, you worked twice as hard to undo. And those acts of kindness, even more than your music, that, my friend, is you. It is true you made some mistakes in life. Sometimes you seemed rude or a fool, but it was always because of your deafness, and not because you were evil or cruel. You went out of your way your whole life to try to amend those you hurt. And when God weighs your sins against your good deeds, the whole world will be glad of your birth." "And what about Teresa? Is it now truly too late?" "You will see her again," fate replied. "For love, it always waits. She is on the other side of this night, which is closer than it seems, and she will be there by your side when you awaken from your next dream."
Lay your head down and sleep on my shoulder. Lay your head down and start a new dream. And for tonight, the moment is over. Drift in a lullaby, here where the stars reside, and angels are always seen. And lay your head down, the stars they have whispered, hear what they say, and know that it means the moon is your guide. The stars they have kissed her as she goes gently by, light as a baby sigh, safe on a fairy tale stream. And start a new dream.
Now you think our story's over, and all have faded from this night. The ghosts, the spirits, and the Lady Fate have all faded out of sight. But just when all seemed silent, a window opened up, and Twist came in, his face a grin with what he had thought up. And picking up the only copy of Beethoven's 10th Symphony, he slid it behind the clock on the wall, where I think it still must be. And at some time, on some future day, no one can really say when, that manuscript will be discovered, and the music will live again.